This is J. Krishnamurti's fourth public talk in Santa Monica, California, 1971.
To talk over this afternoon, won't we, about meditation and the religious mind. First of all, we must guard ourselves against being gullible. In what we are going to talk about, one must have the clear capacity of reasoning, perception, that is, seeing things as they are, without any emotional, sentimental interference. And also one must have a great deal of energy to bring about a fundamental change in our whole structure of our thinking and being. One is apt, I'm afraid, to accept very easily some things in religious matters because we are too eager, too susceptible, easily influenced by our greed and fear and hope, so that we are caught in illusion rather than in reasoned observation. And we are going to talk over together this evening the question of meditation. One mustn't one, not knowing anything about it really, be very cautious, hesitant, and have a certain quality of skepticism, so that you are not easily influenced, especially by the speaker. Because this is very important. We are not concerned with personalities. We are not concerned with words and theories. We are concerned with the understanding of what truth is. And if there is a timeless movement which is not the product of thought, because thought is time, thought is sorrow, thought brings about not only a continuity to pleasure and fear and pain, but also thought cannot possibly uncover what is false, what is true. And in going into this question of meditation and the quality of the religious mind, there is no authority. the speaker has no authority. Therefore, don't please accept anything or deny anything, but just observe. And that's going to be rather difficult because most of us are so eager, and out of that very eagerness, we become gullible. We are so eager to experience something much greater, a thing that has greater significance, meaning, than the everyday experience, the everyday living. We want more experiences. We want transcendental, super, fantastic visions, experiences. And being greedy, not only for physical things, but also for so-called spiritual things, we get very easily caught up in illusion. So please, when we are discussing, talking over together, this question of meditation and the quality of a religious mind, one must be very, very advisedly aware not to be entrammelled in any theory, in any belief, in any speculative assertions. This is really a very complex question, and I don't quite know where to begin. First of all, I think we should begin with, in a country like this, where the material things have tremendous significance, where enjoyment and pleasure dominate most people's lives, we want an experience which is mystical, unworldly, something that will be deeply satisfying. And from Asia, unfortunately, people have brought over to this country this word meditation and all the significance involved in it. So first thing, it seems to me, is to be very simple and very direct, which is that you know absolutely nothing about meditation. You know what the meaning of that word is from the dictionary, which is to reflect upon, consider, ponder over. Give your mind and heart to the consideration of a particular concept, idea, and so on. That's the dictionary meaning. But the significance of meditation, you actually don't know. You know what other people have said, like Zen Buddhism, like the various yogis, swamis, gurus that have brought over a particular system of meditation to this country, to their profit. And so one hesitates, especially the speaker, hesitates to talk it over with you, because you are so extraordinarily susceptible. And as the speaker said, he has no authority, and therefore he is not your guru, he is not your teacher. You have to be your own teacher, your own disciple. You have to learn from yourself and not from another. And so with that warning, and it is a serious warning to a person who is seriously considering this question, not knowing, to find out for oneself what is it that the religious people throughout the world, both superstitious, traditional, minds that have been conditioned through various forms of propaganda, for them to find out what it is a mind that seeks truth, that seeks experience, that seeks enlightenment. Because most of us are seeking some meaning to life. Because our life, actually, the life that one leads every day, is pretty shallow, without much meaning, and rather boring. And seeing that as it is, one wants something more, something greater, something that is beyond the everyday trivialities. And therefore there is the search for mysticism, the search for the occult, the search for something beyond all this. I do not know if you have gone to this question of what is implied in seeking, in searching. There is a seeker, and he is trying to find out what. Please, as we said, we are sharing together this question. You are seeking. Obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be all of you sitting here. You are seeking something. What are you seeking? And if you know what you are seeking, will you be able to find it? And if you do find it, how do you know that what you find is truth, is the real? And when you do find it, you must have the capacity of recognition. You must recognize what you find. And recognition implies knowledge. Knowledge of what you already know, and therefore what you find you already know. You're following all this? Oh, I mustn't go into whether you understand or not. That'll take too long. So I'll go on. When you are seeking, there must be also the process of recognition. Recognition implies that which you have already known. Therefore, it's not new. So what you are seeking is something that you already know. And therefore, it's the old, the past, the dead. Therefore, not real. That's one factor. And if you don't seek, you naturally drift, as most people drift. So, one has to have the intelligence to see the implications of search and the implications of drifting. And with that intelligence, we can then observe, or rather, that intelligence being watchful, then we can see what it is that we want to experience. Because after all, that's what we want. We have had every kind of sensory experiences, sexual, the pleasures of various forms of possessions, the pleasures of power, position, prestige, and the status that goes with function. And so having had various kind of stimulations with their experiences, we want to experience something vast, tremendous. And we hope through meditation we'll have this experience, either through meditation or through drugs. So, should we go into the question of drugs? Oh, Lord. You know, in India, those who take drugs are the lowest in ignorance. And here, in this country, and this drug culture is spreading more and more, not only among the students, but also among the professors and the older people. I wonder why one takes drugs at all. Why you take whiskey or various forms of alcoholic drinks, and why you smoke. Why? Why do you take drugs? To have, as people have explained to the speaker, because the speaker has never taken any form of drug or smoke or alcoholic drinks. The people who have taken drugs explained to me that these drugs bring about chemical change in the system. And it gives them a certain quality of perception in depth, in clarity. that you take drugs in order to take trips, go off. And the more you take drugs, the more your brain inevitably must become dull. Obviously, like man who takes a lot of alcohol must inevitably pay for it. And apparently, from what one hears, these drugs affect the mind, the brain cells themselves. And people take drugs also because life has no meaning anymore. Going to the office is a bore. Why should one work at all? Why should one join the establishment? Life has nothing whatsoever to offer except the usual money, position, and if one is intelligent and rather sensitive, one puts aside all that kind of abomination and hopes through drugs to find some kind of experience and are caught in that chemical experiences. The speaker used to know a friend who is very well known as a writer, and he used to experiment with these drugs. And one day we discussed this matter, and this writer said, look, are not these experiences through various forms of drugs similar to the real? And in discussing, talking over together, the real cannot be experienced at all. Because you cannot possibly recognize it as the real. You cannot possibly say, I have reached enlightenment. That would be most absurd. Which means any person who says, I know, I have experienced, such a person has not experienced the real. Or the man who says, I know, he does not know. So drugs, for a man who is really seeking, well, I won't use the word seeking, for the man who is inquiring. And inquiry is not seeking. Inquiry implies a mind that's free to find whatever there is, to see directly what is. For a mind that is inquiring, drugs are tremendous impediment. They are destructive. They have no value whatsoever to a man who is really completely serious. And as we said, most of us want some kind of supernatural experiences. And we think that's tremendously important because our own lives are rather empty, shallow, and shoddy. And again, to experience, the word experience implies going through and finishing, not retaining. And when you experience anything, we generally hold on, because that gives us a pleasure, thinking about it. So, meditation, not knowing what it is to deny absolutely any form, any system, any method which promises heaven, which promises enlightenment, which promises ecstasy. You know what is implied in a system, don't you? System implies a practice. You repeat it over and over and over again, day after day, hoping to achieve a particular result. And the people who offer you a system are really quite extraordinary, because you accept them, because you think through a system you will get something. But what you will get is what the system offers, which is a dull mind. Right? Because by practice, you make the mind more and more and more and more mechanical, and therefore more and more dull. And the people who offer you systems assume they know, they have experienced, they have achieved. And those people you should be extremely, careful. You shouldn't accept a thing of what they say, because you don't know. And there is this whole Hare Krishna cult in this country. You know what that is, don't you? Dancing in the streets, shouting, making a lot of noise. Again, it's brought over from India, and you accept it because it gives you a sense of a feeling that you can be, release all your feelings, exhibitionism, and all the rest of that nonsense. And also, you have the transcendental gurus with their mantras. You know all that, do you? Yes? Oh, good. That is, the guru, the teacher, in secret, for $50, tells you the Sanskrit word, and you repeat it. I know you laugh. But you do it all the same. The Catholics have done this, repeated Ave Maria. That is old hat. You want something new. And especially brought over from India, which is supposed to be a very spiritual country, mystical and all that nonsense. They come over here and give it to you. And you repeat it. You might just as well repeat Coca-Cola 100,000 times. Don't, sir, please. Don't listen. Don't please clap. Because you don't know what it means when you repeat a word. The repetition of a word, especially a Greek word or a Latin word, and a word from a series of words in Sanskrit, has a certain tonality. And when you repeat it over and over and over again, it does not only quieten the mind, still not quietening the mind, making the mind dull. In that dullness, there is a certain quality which is achieved through the resonance, the tonality of a word. And you think that is something extraordinary. And as we are so gullible, so easily influenced, because that man or that guru has such important people as his follower. And the more the followers, the greater the impression is made upon you. So you accept. So again, if you are serious about the question of meditation, you have to totally, completely discard drugs, alcohol, smoking, because they make the mind insensitive. And you have to discard completely every form of system, because it's mechanical, repetitive. And as our life is mechanical, as it is, repetitive, you add another burden to yourself. Therefore one has to discard not only drugs and all that, every form of system, and also one has to discard this repetition of words which is so absolutely silly. And also one has to discard the desire to experience. That's a great trap, because you can be caught in illusion. Right. Then, what is meditation? You are understanding? None of these offer or help in making the mind highly sensitive, highly aware. And a mind that inquires into this whole question of meditation must have tremendous discipline. Not just a minute. We are using that word discipline in a totally different way. The ordinary discipline implies conformity, imitation, control, suppression, conflict. The word discipline, the root of that word means to learn. Not to conform, but to learn. And a mind that's learning. Not the mind that has learned, but the mind that is learning. Such a mind is, in the very act of learning, is bringing about order in itself. Do you understand? Because one must have tremendous order in life. Not the mechanical order, not the order designed, blueprinted, which you copy, follow, like a soldier. But the order that comes with the understanding of what is disorder. You understand? Through negation, come to the positive. Not accepting the positive and following the positive. But the denial of what is not, the denial of what is false, is the perception of what is true. Are we sharing this together? Look, our lives, the life that we lead every day, is fairly disorderly, isn't it? Contradictory, messy. You know what your lives are. And that is disorder, confusion. Now, in understanding that disorder, the contradiction, the various forms of deceptions, the postures, the masks that we put on, the sense of superiority, the pride, the vanity, and all that shoddy little things that go on in us, which make for disorder. In understanding that disorder, not intellectually or verbally, but actually coming into contact directly with that disorder and understanding them. And out of this understanding comes order, which is completely mathematical. And therefore that order is living, non-mechanical. And a mind that's inquiring into this question of meditation must have this order. And after all, order is virtue. Not the virtue that you cultivate, but which thought cultivates. That is not virtue at all. That leads eventually to immorality, as the social morality is immoral, which is the result of thought cultivating morality. You'll have to think it all this over for yourself if you want to, if you're interested in it. So, the mind that is inquiring into this question of meditation must have this extraordinary sense of inward order. Which has come about with through the understanding of disorder. Then a mind that is serious must find out what is What is austerity? That is, not the austerity of the priest, which is harsh, brutal, dry. The word itself means dry. We're not talking about the harsh austerity. You know what it means to be simple? Not in clothes, not the simplicity of the saints, because they're not simple at all. They may be outwardly have few clothes and have 1 meal a day. But the austerity of which we are talking about is a complete harmony between the mind, the brain, the heart, and the body, which is psychosomatic and the order, the austerity of great intelligence. And intelligence can only function when there is complete simplicity. Now, having stated all that, which is the foundation, if you have not laid that foundation, your meditation then is merely a form of self-hypnosis. A form of excitement, hysteria. That's why it's very important to pursue self-knowing, knowing oneself, not according to the analysts or the professionals, but knowing yourself, what you are, inquiring, pursuing endlessly, watching. So that comes the question of being aware. To be aware. May I take my coat off? I'm just aware of this heat. You know, most of us are not aware or not observe of what is happening around us outwardly. We are not aware of the hills, the beauty of the hills, the line, that yellowing mustard, the shadows, the beauty of the land. We never watch silently the moon on the water. We're not aware of our environment. So one has to be aware of outward things. Then from that awareness of outward things come inward. That is, there is no division between the awareness of the outer things and awareness of the inward movement of one's thoughts and desires and miseries. That is to be aware. To be aware means to be aware without any choice, to observe. Because most of us don't observe ourselves. Either we condemn what we are, or we accept what we are, or we want to change what we are. And when we want to change what we are, that becomes an impossible proposition. Because we don't know how to change what we are. We make tremendous efforts to change what we are. And till we die, we are trying to change what we are. Haven't you noticed this? Now, or justify what we are. And if you can be aware of what you are without any justification, without any explanation, without any desire to change, just to be aware of what you are. Do you understand then what takes place? To be aware of what you are, actually what you are, implies that you have the tremendous energy to observe. And you must have tremendous energy to observe. And that energy is dissipated when you begin to justify what you are. Complaining on the environment, or on your parents, or your establishment, so on, all that stuff. Or try to change what you are. Or try to suppress what you are. When you say, I don't like what I am, I'm ugly, or I'm so marvelously beautiful. And all that is a sheer waste of energy. But if you observe, aware, actually what you are, not only verbally, but non-verbally, that is, when you are aware verbally, it is the awareness of thought observing. You're coming. May I go on? When you observe with words, that is when you say, when you look at the hills and the waters and the movement of lovely birds, when you say how beautiful, you're already allowing thought to observe. There is an observation without the word, without thought. When you look completely at something, completely at a cloud in the moonlight, when you observe completely yourself, without a word, without denying or asserting or accepting, just to observe, then you have all the energy, because you are no longer escaping. Not you. Then thought is not escaping through various forms of justifications and condemnations and so on. Then thought is in abeyance, you're observing. Then only there is a possibility of tremendous change. Seeing actually what is. And when you observe what is without the interference of the past, which is thought as knowledge, then there is complete change of what is. That is awareness which you need in meditation. Please, we are not offering you a system. Don't say, well, first I must get rid of, drugs, then smoke, then wine, you follow? And then gradually come to awareness. And you cannot practice awareness. Thank God. You can't go to college and learn it. And get a degree so that you can teach others and make money out of it. Awareness is something that you do every day, every minute. Watch. Whether you're in a bus or in a car or sitting on the beach or talking to somebody, aware of the movements of your thoughts, conscious as well as the hidden thoughts and movement. To be totally aware. That brings in a question. How to explore the whole content of consciousness, both the open and the hidden. Shall I go into all that? Is the speaker working or are we also working? Are we working together, or you are letting the speaker do all the work and you are just gathering the seeds or the crumbs and going away by yourself and thinking it over afterwards? We are doing it together, I hope. Right. Because all this is part of meditation. Meditation isn't merely sitting quietly of an evening in your room or on the beach practicing some silly thing. That's not meditation. Meditation is concerned with the daily living at every minute of the day. What you do, what you think, what you feel. Be aware of it tremendously. Therefore, meditation means a life that is totally different every minute of the day. And we are asking, whether the conscious mind, the educated, the open, the mind that is on the surface, can ever understand the whole content that is below in the cave, downstairs, hidden. I know this is a tremendous, long, complex question, like every human question. Whether that content can be exposed through analysis or, please just listen to this, or exposed completely on the immediate. You understand my question? Whether the content of one's whole consciousness and consciousness is the content. The two are not separate. The content of consciousness is the consciousness. What you think, what you feel, all that is consciousness. The two are not separate. was that that whole structure is to be understood through analysis or seen totally without analysis. See it completely without any movement of the analytical process. Now I'm going to, if you have the time and the energy and the interest and the vitality to go into this, because you are used to analysis, not only through the latest professional analysts and psychologists, but also the tradition, part of which is confession, if you're a Catholic, or introspection. Now, analysis implies a whole series of events, examinations, conclusions. The analyzer and the analyzed. Is the analyzer different from the analyzed? Is not the analyzed the analyzer? If there are two different entities or states or qualities, then the analyzer, in the process of analyzing that which he analyzes, is something outside of himself. And every analysis must be complete, must be without a flaw. If there is any kind of misjudgment, or wrong evaluation, then that becomes the new medium through which he's going to examine the next incident. You're following all this? So, analysis implies the analyzer and the analyzed. And when you observe very closely, there is no division. The analyzer is the analyzed. The observer is the observed. And analysis implies time, gradually. And when you allow time to interfere with change, there is no change at all. So is there a way of observing, seeing the whole content of consciousness without analysis? I hope you understand the question. We say there is a way of observing without analysis which reveals the total content, not through time, instantly. That is, to observe the cloud, the color of your dress, to observe your wife or your husband or yourself without any image, to observe without image, without the word. Because the image is time. The image is the past. And when you look with the eyes of the past, you are bound to divide the present as the present and the past. And therefore, in that division, there is the observer and the observed, the analyzer and the analyzed. But if you can observe without a word, just to observe, give your complete attention, then you will say, all the content is spread out before you, the content of yourself. And you are looking at it not as an outsider looking in, you are that. And that, when you observe without the word justification or condemnation, that transforms and you go beyond it. I won't go into all that. It's too... I wish we had time, we could go into it. It doesn't matter. In meditation, there is not only this awareness, and there is attention. I do not know if you ever watched when you give complete attention. There is no center from which you attend. In concentration there is a center, and in attention there is no center. Am I talking Chinese? You know, when you attend, that means when you listen, when you are completely without any resistance, without any sense of wanting to gain or deny, just to attend. In that you will see there is not only no center as the me who is attending. You will see in that attention there is no frontier, no limitation, no border. And in that attention, because there is no center as the me, the image, the word, the description, the meaning, then that attention, in that attention, when you observe, the what is completely changed. So meditation is not the learning of concentration, but being completely attentive, in which there is no resistance whatsoever. And to come to that point, you must have tremendous intelligence. And that intelligence comes naturally when you deny all the false things that you have accepted as being true. Like order, like discipline, accepting a mechanical process of living. accepting that you are you because you have learned passed few exams, write few books and all the rest of the absurdities, that you are far superior, you know much more than the other fellow does. You know absolutely nothing. Because that means to live in a state of complete innocence. You know what that means? The word innocence means a mind that is never hurt. A mind that has never been scarred, never been tortured. Has not known what it means to make an effort. That is a mind that is innocent. And that such a mind is not something fantastic. It comes about when you understand this whole movement of existence, your life. And to understand this whole movement is to observe it, watch it, which means watch it with care, with affection, with sensitivity, with love. When you watch your life with that attention in which there is love and compassion, then your action is out of love and compassion. Then you will create a totally different kind of world. That is the meaning of meditation. And also in meditation, if you can go, if the mind can go deeply into it still further, shall I go on? The mind is also the brain. Psychosomatic, when we use the mind, we mean psychosomatic quality, the brain, the whole totality. You see, our brains are the result of tremendous strains and stresses of evolution. Our brains have recorded all the past incidents, tortures, miseries, sorrows. And that old brain is always operating. To every challenge, to every new demand, the old brain immediately offers its response. And meditation is to be aware of the movement of the old brain with all its responses as old, be aware of it, and to keep to, I don't know what word to use, to have, to bring about, these are not the words, to allow that brain, the old brain, to be completely quiet. Completely quiet. And that can only happen when when there is an understanding of the brain, not neurological, not from books, by observing your own mind, by observing your own thoughts, your own memories. How always the old habits, the old conditioning response If you're a Catholic, you respond in the old Catholic way, all Protestant, all communist, Marxist, or a Hindu, whatever you are. If you're a Freudian, of course, or a Jungian, or whatever you are, you immediately respond according to your own condition. Now, to watch that, to be aware of that, and in becoming aware of that, completely being totally attentive of that, you will see that it becomes extraordinarily quiet. So, meditation is this sense of complete silence and quietness of the mind. Not the silence between two chatterings. Not the silence between two noises of two desires. But the silence that comes naturally, easily, when you have understood the whole movement of thought. And in that silence, it is not the result of control. That is, the body must be sensitive, obviously. And it cannot be sensitive if you drug it, whether you through smoke, through overeating, through drugs, make it heavy, dull, stupid, because the body has its own intelligence if you allow it. And also, you must have great pliability, sensitivity of the mind, which can only come about when there is no fear, when it is not addicted to pleasure. And when there is complete harmony between the mind, the body, and the heart, these are just words, then in that quality of mind, in that silence, there is a movement which is not to be described by words. And that movement is without time. And this whole thing, from the beginning of this talk till now, is meditation. Such a mind is only the religious mind, not the mind who believes, not the mind that has rituals, not the mind that follows some edict, sanctions, some teachers. It's a free mind because it is free, because it has got complete order. And that order comes only in the understanding of disorder. It's only such a mind that can see something which is beyond all time and thought and sorrow. Should we just go, or should we ask questions? Do you want to ask a question, sir? Just a minute, sir. This gentleman.
Yesterday, you said incredibly that gurus have been flooding into the United States and India wondered what you thought the reason was that the United States government seems to welcome gurus coming to the U.S. but strives mightily to keep communists like Ernest Mandela.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. The government allows the gurus to come into this country but keeps out communists. I'm not sure the gurus are not communists also. Please listen quietly, don't please see the implication of it. Because they are also very authoritarian. If they are gurus, they're very strict. They have their own particular kind of concentration camps, which are called ashramas. The guru says he knows. So does the communist. He knows according to the Marxists, according to Marx. These people are allowed to come in, and are equally as dangerous as anybody else, as you or me. Ask the government, so why do they keep one out and allow the others to come in? I'm sorry, I'm not responsible. Ask the government. Ask your governor or your Congress or whatever you do to change the democratic way of things.
In meditation, can one transcend the mind? And if so, how does one know, if one has no intelligence, what is truth and what is illusion?
Wait a minute, sir. Can one transcend the mind in meditation? Then, how do you know you have intelligence? Is that the question, sir?
If one can transcend the mind through meditation, one would then have no intelligence. How then can one discern what is real?
I did not say that one would transcend the mind. I did not say that you would have no intelligence. I did not say then how would you recognize if you have no intelligence what to do. I'm afraid we have not understood this thing. I didn't say transcend the mind.
So you're saying that it can't be done?
And I didn't say that.
Do in meditation.
Wait, sir, listen, sir. I said meditation implies the understanding of oneself. And therefore, the understanding of oneself means the understanding of the world. Because the world is oneself, and oneself is the world. To change the world, one has to change oneself radically. And to change oneself implies to learn about oneself, not according to any book or any professional, just to observe yourself deeply. And in that observed, and we said to observe, and you can only observe yourself if you don't condemn. Watch. Then we said, as you watch, you will understand the whole structure of your brain, the mind, and the whole business. And this understanding is intelligence. It is not understanding without intelligence. There is no such thing. Yes, sir.
The mind is aware that making an effort in any direction away from what is an inadequate response. And yet, in being very alert here, or when I'm sitting alone, I find a sense of strenuousness, which seems to imply an effort perhaps of a different sort. Is there an effort that's not a movement away from what is?
Yes, sir. Quite right. Did I repeat that question? So would you correct me if I repeat your question wrongly? The question is, when I don't move away from what is, there appears to be a peculiar kind of strenuousness, which is somewhat different from the strenuousness of effort. Is that so? Is that the question, sir?
Is there an effort that is healthy, that's not a movement away from what is?
Is there an effort which is healthy, which is not a movement away from what is? Now, what does the word effort mean? The word effort. The word effort implies the desire to change, the desire to overcome, the desire to suppress. This whole effort to do something about what is. In that, obviously, there is great strenuousness. Now, in being aware of what is, in which there is no effort in the sense which we have just now described, is there any sense of strenuousness in being aware of what is? Right, sir? I shouldn't think so, do you? Wait, please. Say no or yes. Let's go slow. Let's hesitate. I am aware that I think I am greedy or superior. And there is an awareness of my greed, an awareness. In that awareness, is there any quality of effort, as we have described it, or any quality of strenuousness, which is strain, or is there in that awareness, in that attention, a total freedom to observe in which there is no sense of going beyond what is? I would suggest in that state of awareness of what is, there is no tension whatsoever. No strain. Strain comes only, doesn't it, when I want to do something about it. If the mind only observes without a motive, then it is observing freely and in which there is no strain. So, motivation is strain. Motivation brings strenuousness and therefore contradiction. Have I explained, sir?
Thank you.
So that's too long a question. Would you put it briefly if you can? Same thing, sir. What exists and what is are the same, surely.
I think the previous question is the mind wants to escape from what is. It wants to escape from greed. It response of pleasure and so forth. So doesn't it take effort for...
I understood, sir. I must be brief. The mind wants to escape from what is. And how is one to prevent the escape? Is that it? Yeah. Keep it fairly simple, and then we can make it complicated. The mind wants to escape from what is. Why? Now just watch this, please. Just watch this. The mind wants to escape from what is. When I ask the question, why, it is an analytical question, isn't it? I'm going to analyze why it escapes. And the examination of that is a process of analysis. And we're going to point out that without analysis, you can stop completely all escape. I'll show it in a minute. I'm going to first analyze. That is, what is and the escape from what is. That is, there is sorrow, my brother, my son, some grave incident has happened to me, and there is sorrow. I can't stay with it. Because it's too shocking. So I escape from it. I turn on the radio, talk, go to clubs, do football and all the rest of it. Why do I want to escape? Because that's my cultural conditioning. I have been taught, if there is any trouble, go to the church. If there is any trouble, for God's sake, take a drink. If there is any kind of disturbance, take a tranquilizer. Or read a book, run away. That's our cultural conditioning. We are educated to run away. Wait, madam, just listen to what is being said. Don't agree with what is being said, just find out. And when an incident which brings great sorrow, instinctively I run away. Because that's my habit. That's what I've been brought upon. And I'm not at all aware even that I'm escaping. So one has to become aware that one is escaping. And try to put an end to escape, which becomes again a strain, a struggle. Because I've got a network of escapes. Sexual escape, overeating, you follow dozens and dozens of escapes I have, thinking I'm so superior to everybody else, or so utterly hopeless, all the games we play. Now, aware of my escapes, the implications that becoming aware I must resist all escapes, and therefore fight all escapes, and that becomes a strain, and therefore that becomes another form of neurosis. Now, we know all that. Now, please listen, is there a way of remaining completely with my sorrow? Not escape, remaining. I won't even say escape. To completely live with my sorrow. Do you understand what it means? I have great sorrow, my son. Something has happened to me which has brought great grief. And not, it's just to live with it. Now, what does it mean to live with it? To have no resistance. To see what happens completely when I remain with it. Not want to go beyond it, not translate it, not say justify it or rationalize, just to, to hold something completely in your hand. Like a flower you hold when you love something, a flower in your hand completely. You are with it. That is, live with it completely, with your mind, with your heart, with your eyes, with your, nerves, wholly. Then what takes place? You understand? Remaining completely with sorrow. Then if you do remain with that sorrow, out of that comes passion. Because the word passion comes from sorrow. The root meaning of that word means sorrow. So when you remain with something completely, it gives you tremendous energy. Whereas the other, which is analysis, the cause, rationalization and all that, dissipates energy. Now, please just listen, if you see the truth of this, the truth that if you remain completely with something, with your sorrow, with your grief, with your anxiety, completely, hold it as you hold a lovely thing in your hand, like a beautiful vase, a lovely flower. If you remain with it completely, and you have that energy that transforms that which you hold. Whereas the other dissipates, destroys energy. Now, if you see the truth of that, you don't have to do a thing. It happens. You understand? It takes place. In that, there is no effort, no strain. What is the time, may I ask? 4:30? One more question, sir. Just a minute, sir.
Emotionalism in relation to meditation.
Emotionalism in meditation. So, meditation is completely devoid of all sense of emotionalism. Because emotionalism leads to hysteria. But love doesn't lead, love isn't emotion. Sir, please. Look, sir, we went into the question the other day, what is love? Is love pleasure? For most of us it is. Because it is associated with sensory pleasures, whether it is the pleasure of eating good food, sex, and all the various forms of physical stimuli. And hysteria is part of this emotionalism, whereas love is not. And meditation, if you really go into this question of meditation, meditation is love. The mind that has this quality of meditation is compassionate. Not just, you know what that word compassion means? passion for everybody. Yes, so is that enough?